So it probably came as no surprise to anyone when the Harris campaign announced publicly today that the vetting process for a vice presidential pick has, quote, begun in earnest. I would hope so, given that a source directly involved in the process has told NBC News that Vice President Kamala Harris plans to make her pick in less than 2 weeks by the August 7th date to beat the state ballot certification deadlines. As that vetting continues, many of those potential VPs, however, are not being shy about talking to the cameras.
She's articulating a message that isn't just about herself and certainly isn't just about Donald Trump, although she has that contrast down. It's about us. And that's the kind of campaign that wins. It's the right kind of campaign.
This is about the future of our country. We don't want to go back to 2017 to 2021, where Donald Trump was in the White House, where all of our alliances around the world were diminished, where there were significant tax cuts, tax giveaways for the richest Americans and the biggest corporations, and where everyday working people got nothing.
The contrast is so great that it is stunning right now. You know there's something wrong with people when they talk about freedom, freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read. That stuff is weird.
This all comes as Donald Trump's own choice of a running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, has not proven to be the breakout star that Trump was hoping for. Or as Trump would say, perhaps Vance did not come straight out of central casting. Joining me now is April Ryan, White House correspondent for The Grio and an MSNBC contributor, and Rachel Dean Wilson, managing director of the Alliance for Securing Democracy and U.S. Elections at the German Marshall Fund. Ms. Wilson is also a former communications director for the late Senator John McCain. Welcome to you both. So I want to start with you, Ms. Wilson, because I think it's interesting. You and I are both familiar with the internal processes typically within a Republican vetting process. You're very familiar with the John McCain effort back when he ran for president. What happened here? Can you put a little light on what went wrong in this selection process that this fella, J.D. Vance, doesn't seem to understand that you can't double down on the whole women negative narrative thing? How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a confusing choice at the beginning. If I can take you back to like a little over a week ago after this awful assassination attempt, right before the convention when the VP was announced, you had a real opportunity, I think, for Trump, who had been trying to moderate some of his more controversial positions. Mm-hmm. He was calling for unity. There was this moment where there were all sorts of choices they could have made on the VP front to kind of underscore moderation and unity. And then he chose J.D. Vance. And that was a real doubling down on the MAGA side of the Republican Party. And it didn't quite, flow with where I think things were headed. Now, fast forward to a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, feels like a lifetime. But it's still confusing.
Right.
I don't know who his audience is. The last time I kind of checked,
I think it's Donald Trump Jr. and Eric at this point.
But like it is about successful campaigns bring people in. And so, that would be that should be the goal here.
So
you already know.
I know, April. I want to play for you. Since Rachel brought up the doubling down thing, let's listening to a little bit of that doubling down.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a sarcastic comment. I've got nothing against cats. I've got nothing against dogs. I've got one dog at home, and I love him, Megyn. But look, this is not, people are focusing so much on the sarcasm and not on the substance of what I actually said. And the substance of what I said, Megyn, I'm sorry, it's true. It is true that we become anti-family. It is true that the left has become anti-child. It is simply true that it's become way too hard to raise a family.
So Vance makes the claim that I'm not criticizing people who, for various reasons, did not have kids, but I'm criticizing the Democratic Party for being anti-family. That's the explanation.
Okay, I'm not going to try to assume what he is thinking, all right? But let me tell you what I'm thinking.
What you're hearing.
What I'm in my mind, yes. What I'm hearing is Donald Trump Part 2, when Donald Trump said you can grab a woman by the pee while eating a Tic Tac, and then coming back trying to explain that. That's what it sounds like to me. A different day, a worse version of a man that this nation is trying to grapple with one way or the other. It makes no sense to me. He's got a lot of book smarts, but not common sense to say something like that. It's offensive. It's not Democrat or Republican to be a childless woman, okay? It's not Democrat or Republican to have a cat or a dog. But it's rude, it's insensitive. He is a Yale graduate, and he does not boast the idea of thinking, critical thinking, common sense, and to be quite frank with you, I don't understand why Donald Trump is not upset at this point, because it's making him look very bad.
Right. So on that point, how do you see that playing out with Trump right now? Because you've heard, I've heard, and a lot of folks around this town have heard the sort of chatter that's only they do well here in Washington, where they think nobody's listening, but they want everybody to hear. They're not happy with this pick. There are a lot of Republicans that are not happy with the J.D. Vance pick. They warned against it and advised against it. In fact, you know, there was a lot of conversation around to your earlier point. So how do you think they clean up on aisle 9 here with this, if that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the clip that was circulated, it was from a couple years ago. I think that the campaign needs to buckle up and expect more of those. You know, as my old boss liked to say, politics ain't beanbag,
Right.
And there is an opposition research file. There will be strategic, releases of that, and I'm sure there are more comments where that came from, right? So there needs to be a campaign strategy around that, and they can try to address it as best they can.
How do you think the Harris campaign utilizes this moment now? Because as we were talking before we came into the segment, this does not get better. There's a lot of energy right now. We talked about it a little bit before. There's momentum,
yes.
But you know at some point there's going to be that reckoning from the Republicans.
So the Harris campaign is loving it. Let him talk, because he's the gift that keeps giving for them. And they're coming out with these very fresh, young ads saying, oh, and they said this, and this is not the truth. They're doing, what is it, live tweeting in real time and fact checking.
Counter-programming.
Yes, counter-programming, and it's working. And I guarantee you, again, going back to the point I said earlier, Donald Trump is not happy about this. And he is very scared of Kamala Harris. And I guarantee you, J.D. Vance would not have been his pick if he would have known it was Kamala Harris that he was going to be running against. I guarantee you, it would have been maybe Tim Scott or who else? Byron Donalds.